Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video is going to be MBTI style review, and this is going to be a fun one because this is about the ESFP, the entertainer, the performer. For this particular MBTI type, it holds a special place in my heart because I'm just really fascinated by their boldness in terms of self-expression. ESFPs, as the nickname suggests, performer or entertainer, is already telling you that this person has super high extroverted sensing function. So this is their hero function, which means their sensation. How do they work around their physicality? I think this is where they are very attuned with their sensory experience, and they're able to tap into their introverted feeling because that is their parent function, which is their second function. So you have extroverted sensing and introverted feeling coupled together, therefore making them look like one of the most creative and artistic type. Now, I wouldn't claim that ESFPs are fashionable because the term fashionable is already quite debatable. So there's already a difference between the word fashionable and stylish. I think fashionable would just mean that this person has a array or variety in terms of their taste in fashion. They're able to be very versatile in that manner, and fashionable would also suggest that it is quite tasteful. It is what majority of people in the world of fashion would approve and be inclined to the look, which is why the term fashionable. It is sort of associated with the word trendy because when someone is trendy or a trendsetter, they would then appear fashionable because they help to fashion or they help to create this direction that everybody else would follow. So before I go off topic, going back to ESFP, masters of self-expression, they have introverted intuition as their inferior function, which is their blind spot. They don't really focus on long-term consequence. They're not able to plan in advance. They do not stick to a particular style. They are not very strategic in the things that they wear, not in a bad way, but they are more in the now, spur of the moment, being very spontaneous with the things that they choose to put on themselves. I'm using stereotypical ESFPs describing their ego self. This is what a typical ESFP would be like, so that majority of people can resonate and be able to understand. Of course, I've introduced in my other review videos where I talk about the 4 sides of the mind. This is when you know that, yes, when you take the assessment, there's only one side of your mind, which is your ego type. So let's say this is the ESFP. There are 3 other types, which equates to 4 sides of the mind or 4 types. And so this ESFP or the ESFPs that I'm about to describe using celebrity as references, just what I think stereotypically in their ego self, what they are in terms of expressing their first 4 dominant function in the ego stack would look like. Of course, there will be ESFPs who are maybe more subconscious focused or shadow focused. This would mean that their style can vary a little bit. So just a disclaimer on that. Okay, so I'm going to be reviewing some of the famous ESFPs. Now, if you're new to my channel and this particular series, I do a merge of fashion, psychology, self-development. So this particular series, which is MBTI Style Critique, is where I deep dive into each MBTI type, giving you my professional and even my personal opinion on what I think about their dressing style in a stereotypical way. It has been a fun process for me because I launched a course on Udemy earlier this year. This is where I deep dive into sharing with everyone the fundamentals of fashion psychology, what kind of visual messaging, what kind of code it provides, and the highlight of it is how I'm able to weave fashion with MBTI insights, which is going to allow people to discover, oh, if I'm an ISTJ, this is how I would dress, this is my style code, and what are the other potential styles that I can explore. So if you would like to check out my Udemy course, I made it at a very affordable price because I want this to be accessible by many people. Please check it out in the link in the description box below. Let's get back into reviewing famous ESFPs dressing style. Yes, Joseph, he has done a lot of great work in terms of typing famous people. And of course, there are other resources out there, but I think that his is the most reliable in my personal opinion. Okay, let's first go with the men ESFP. So I have Damiano David. Now, I think this makes a lot of sense because before I got super deep into MBTI or even personality types, when Måneskin, I hope I pronounced it correctly, Måneskin, the band, first came up, I was already obsessed with Damiano's style. It's super badass, it's rock and roll, it's rebellious, it's super edgy, it's really out there. A lot of that character all packed into one very strong style. I literally told my partner that if I'm a guy, I would dress like Damiano. It's nice to see that he brings back this rock and roll vibe and does it in a very sophisticated way. He would then try to incorporate all these sartorial tailored pieces, looking really fine and bespoke, but at the same time, he has a lot of that rebellious take on it. And I think I like both of those elements together. Damiano is considered ESFP, and I can totally see why. When you look at his performances, it's not just in music videos, because music videos aesthetic, it's staged, rehearsed. But when you see him live, he is so in tune with his surrounding, with his own body, with what's going on physically, that he's able to put on such a good performance. He's in control of his voice, his movement, the way he expresses himself through his music. I think some of these celebrities, specifically singers like Lady Gaga, who have mastery in terms of their extroverted sensing, are the best performers. And I think Damiano is definitely one of it. So let's take a look at his style. This is going to be my favorite part, of course. So you can see all three of this, the total look here. Although it can be quite different if you look at it at first glance, because one is a little bit more romantic, the other one is more street style, and then the other one is more like, I would say, retro-ish classic. But all three of it has its own flavor, which is a bit like a bad boy kind of vibe. I think this is probably my favorite, as what I mentioned. You know, he would look super sartorial, menswear tailoring, prim and proper, but then you see the way he accessorized. It is really quirky, offbeat. It is not what people would expect. And I think I like the fact that this is where ESFPs, they have this artistic touch to the things that they put on themselves, which is why I say that ESFPs, they have more flair. They're not like fashionable where they follow trends. They are more of like an artist trying to express themselves, not conforming to trends, but more of, I feel like this harness works well with this sartorial outfit. It's like their own interpretation. Is a very introverted feeling kind of thing. Oh, actually, if you pay attention to his looks over the years, it's changed quite a bit. Like he plays with his facial hair, like at one point he's clean cut and then he changes his hairstyle and then he will grow on a mustache in order to fit the theme. The look is that feel of, I want to express it. They really look so thematic in that sense. Like their look is just a complete story. They are unlike other more safe MBTI types where they need to like kind of balance it out a little bit. Like it doesn't look too provoking. But I think for ESFPs, ISFPs, or ENFPs, these are the people that will just go full on to showcase to you the mood that they want to present. And if you look at his older pictures or his style, it also looks like there's a little bit of the hippie, indie kind of vibe, retro. He is very versatile. He is extremely artistic. Snoop Dogg is actually a celebrity that is listed under the famous people section that is typed as ESFP as well. Looking at his style, it also, although we all recognize what is Snoop Dogg's style, but he is also experimenting, being very creative in terms of how he interprets it in his own special way. Now let's look at female ESFPs. Now this is going to get pretty interesting too. I'm going to just run through two examples, okay? Although both of them are very similar in terms of always expressing themselves, but one is a bit more extreme than the other. So I want you to be able to see like the variety of it, okay? Let's first start with the extreme. So the extreme female version of the ESFP in terms of their dressing style, I would say is Cardi B. Cardi B, comparable to Nicki Minaj, they are just masters of show-stopping, provocative outfits, whether it's in a music video, attending an event, or just on their day-to-day. They really just wear whatever the hell that they want and not afraid of getting the attention. I think the key word here is that they just love putting on this performance, enticing and engaging people, which is why you will see them being okay with bold, striking details, colors, mixed but not matched. As long as it feels good to them, it is all that matters. I think they just always have in mind that they have to put on something that is going to make people feel a certain way. Not necessarily pleasant, but as long as they feel like it's hitting their artistic objective of I look like an art piece, or I'm getting the attention that I want. And I think this is where celebrities are not the best real life examples, because sometimes when you look at the things that they wear, they obviously have stylists behind them, influencing them, the things that they should wear for certain image purposes. But I think Cardi B, even if you look at her social media, it's just like, why are you wearing that? You know, that kind of vibe. There's something very endearing and admirable about the ESFP, whether it's the men or the female ESFPs, is that you guys are so courageous. You guys are so true to yourself and being able to live in the moment, which a lot of people don't get to do. It is where you enjoy the most and getting the most out of your environment. And I think this is what I appreciate so much about the ESFPs, that I think a lot of us intuitive thinkers or even the sensor type can learn from. So I think for Cardi B, four sides of the mind, she is, for ESFPs, you have your INTJ subconscious, probably, but she looks like she's so expressive. It seems like she has gone into her super ego, which is the ENTP, looking super rebellious, don't really care what people think. I think there's a little bit hint of that. But let's look at the mild version of the ESFP. Okay, so this is gonna be Taylor Swift. Yeah, so Taylor Swift seems a little bit more put together. There's a bit of coordinates going on. She almost sometimes looks a bit like her ISFJ shadow or even her INTJ subconscious, where, you know, it's not too much. It is still quite flattering in terms of her aesthetic. I can't compare all her performance outfits because those are just really meant to dramatize. But I think in the overall sense, she is extremely toned down compared to Nicki Minaj, and I think there's something slightly more sophisticated here. Yeah, I think in general, she looks more like an INTJ. She channels her INTJ subconscious way more than she is tapping into her super ego or her ego self, where she's super expressive. But I think she has no issues doing that, expressing herself, because after all, she's Taylor Swift. Yeah, but there's a thing that you notice about the ESFPs, right? They have a bit of that badass, rebellious, wanting to not conform to society kind of vibe. I think this is also because they have the INTJ subconscious and then the ENTP superego. I think both of it combined, and the fact that ESFPs are really considered the movement type, which they are all about progression. They are always adapting, they're always wanting to experiment. All three parts of their mind are quite creative out there, innovative. And so I think their overall dressing style wouldn't look traditional in any sense. So I think I'll be very surprised to see that the celebrities or the ESFPs I've mentioned just now would conform to like minimalist, conventional, conservative outfits. That is when I'm like, are you stuck in your shadow? What is my overall take on the ESFP style? You already know that, like I said, if I'm a guy, I would dress like Damiano David. I would actually dress like an ESFP that is a badass, that is a rock and roll star. But I think for all of us to appreciate is, like I mentioned, them being able to be in the moment and experiment. I think that's one of their best qualities, their most advantageous qualities, being able to tap into what they feel and having mastery over their physicality, which is going to be a skill. And they are just always captivating people. As much as people think that they're always seeking attention, I think we can all be inspired and admire the fact that they are very assured and confident with themselves. But I think the fashion advice that I can give them is that if you're an ESFP and you are going into the working world and you're not able to showcase your creativity too much because of what society or what your work environment expects you to. Like for example, if you are going for a managerial position, let's say you have a job where it requires you to exude a lot of stability, focus, long-term planning, which is all pretty much your inferior function. Being able to plan ahead, being able to stick to your plan. I think when you try to either go with the flow with what you wear, sometimes being too comfortable, casual, and then one day you're just wearing this and wearing that, you're unpredictable. I think this is when you can cause people to not be so trusting with you and maybe causing the impression that you're not that reliable. So I highly suggest for ESFPs to look at the four sides of the mind. Maybe you want to channel a bit of your INTJ subconscious or even your ISFJ shadow by being a little bit more predictable in the things that you wear, maybe looking a bit more tailored or a bit more competent is going to be extremely key if your image goal is to command respect, assertiveness, and wanting to have certain kind of influence. Like I said, it really depends on your environment. I'm not asking ESFPs to camouflage their strength of being able to be expressive, but you need to be able to be aware of whether this is helping you with your personal and your professional life. I think there's always a way to look creative without being too much. If you want more fashion tips, please of course not just subscribe to my channel, but check out my community, Styleify. This is when we actually share a lot of fashion psychology tips, practical style tips for everyday people to learn from in order to project their best image and enhance self-confidence. Anyways guys, I hope you found this video useful and stay tuned to the next MBTI style critique. Bye!